everyone, David here, host of Self-Sufficient Community, and it's time for another Ask the Expert. And today I'm really pleased to have one of our members, Beth Blackmore. Beth, great to see you.
Thanks, David. Thanks so much for inviting me, and super excited to share my story, what's going on with my life and my business that is just launching. I've just launched my website, and so just grateful to be here, and thank you for the invite.
It's always a pleasure. I'd love to chat with members, and especially if they have a very interesting business that could be of use to our members and anyone else around who think they can benefit. So I know we met through the community, I guess, last year, and we've met within our community here in Ottawa a few times. And you know, every time I chat with you, you have you know, interesting stories, and you've shared some of your experience with me. And I think it's time to share that with others. You know, every one of us here has a story to tell, and I think it's important that we do tell our stories, because that's what makes us human, first of all, and I think that's what also builds a connection between us. So you mentioned at the outset that you've launched a website and started a new business, and we will definitely talk about that. I just want to maybe ask you, the first question is, what are you up to today? How did you get here?
Wow, where to start? How did I get here? To be honest, it's been a whirlwind, really. I mean, the last couple of years. So in March of 2019, I was dead set on changing my life in terms of my health. And I'm starting with that because I really believe that that was the precipice. That is what started my health journey, my transition, this trajectory into entrepreneurship and the business that I'm running today. And so back in early 2019, I was suffering from a lot of different health issues, that I think a lot of people would normalize. But they seem to be getting worse and worse. I was starting to really listen to my body and dig in terms of the symptoms I was feeling, not feeling great, just having headaches upon headaches. I've always suffered from migraine headaches, but they were getting worse, not great sleeps, just feeling, bloated and tired, overwhelmed, exhausted, swollen, extremities, sore, stiff joints, high blood pressure. So, these things started escalating, and I really dug into wanting to find out why and what the root cause was. And so I did that on my own, even though, I had a traditional medical doctor I was regularly seeing, also a naturopath that I'd been seeing for 20 odd years. But I really started digging in and figuring out that I was suffering from insulin resistance. I had no idea that these symptoms were really attributed to my diet and what I was eating, which was the standard, Canadian diet. And so I, in order for me to change and really hone in on my diet, I had to understand first how this was going to work, that I was going to be successful. So it was definitely this mindset shift that once I started gathering information and informing myself, doing this research, I really realized that, no, I am going to be successful. I'm going to follow this method, which at the time was healthy ketosis and intermittent fasting. So instead of using, the glucose as energy, it was using the fat, the ketones, as energy to fuel my body. So within a couple of, honestly, even a couple of days, definitely a couple of weeks, I started noticing big changes, and I started feeling a whole lot better. Yes, I was experiencing, sugar withdrawal symptoms at first, because I ditched the trifecta, is what I call the trifecta of ultra processed foods. So the sugars, the refined carbs and grains, and the seed oils, vegetable oils. And I really got back to basics, started consuming whole foods. And it wasn't long before I started feeling better. And so while I didn't own a scale at the time, I knew that I was dropping weight. I was dropping water weight. I was becoming less bloated, less swollen, and feeling, to be honest, more satiated, not having to rely on snacks or food in between my meals. I was having like 3 square meals a day, ensuring that I was having a lot of protein, healthy fats, a lot of raw vegetables. And it was transforming enough that I stuck with it because I felt good. And then I started losing the weight, and then my symptoms started to alleviate. So I keep saying that it really wasn't about the weight. Yes, I was. So I had lost 60 pounds, I think within a year and a half after me starting that in March
That's a
2019.
lot so quickly.
It is a lot. It's a lot, but it didn't feel like I was sacrificing myself. It didn't feel like I was torturing myself. I definitely wasn't starving myself. And I believe that that's why it worked. And I started to see the results in terms of losing weight, but also feeling a whole hell of a lot better. And so that was a year before COVID started. And so, I was still losing weight when COVID hit. I was definitely scared, at the onset of COVID and watching that John Hopkins map, with all the cases coming over from China, seeing that map light up, and super nervous. I was glad that we were actually in lockdown. I was a government employee at the time. I didn't want to take public transportation. I didn't want to be in the office. But, I always question things. Like I thought, okay, but if this is a novel virus, how did they have all these tests in every corner of the globe? If this is a novel new virus, why did they start testing people at a certain time? And then I started to see censored information, and censorship happened before my eyes that I had never experienced it before. As soon as that happened, it was July of 2020.
2020 probably, yeah.
Yeah, on down the rabbit hole I went. And I was just like this sponge because, and it wasn't even that anyone was telling me, like no one in my close group, family, friends had figured anything out. It was really something that I saw before my eyes when this YouTube video was pulled a couple hours after it was live streamed, and due to, violating community guidelines. And I couldn't believe it. I had never experienced anything like that before. So I just started asking more why questions, and for me, I couldn't look at COVID and isolation and it makes sense, and I know a lot of people struggle with red flags and thinking, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. And COVID this and lockdowns that, and that doesn't make sense. But I find people have this bottleneck or obstacle in terms of looking at the whole picture. And that's where my mind went. I thought we can't look at COVID in isolation. And that's really when the onion layers really started to peel off and things really started to make sense in terms of this worldwide, governance, this worldwide evil, really, that has taken over and has for centuries. We're just, starting to come to terms with it now, many of us. And that's why, there's this great awakening that I believe is happening. So I was working for the federal government when my eyes opened, and that was July of 2020. Soon after, I think it was August 2020, Prime Minister Trudeau announced that government employees, that he will be mandating the shots for government employees. And meanwhile, the shots weren't even out yet. And they didn't come out, I don't believe. Have they come out? No, that was 2021.
Over the summer.
Another year later.
Yeah.
Sorry.
21.
A year later.
21. Yeah.
That's right. And so I, having these eyes wide open, sitting in my comfy home office, here it is, and working for the federal government, as our federal government is telling businesses to shut down because they're not essential. And I'm sitting here as a government employee, getting my increases, getting the bonuses for office setup at home. I just thought, I was disgusted, really. I didn't want any part of it. I didn't want to be a part of the federal government, because I soon realized that it wasn't just about big pharma with COVID and the money, and the greed. It was really orchestrated by governments and those ruling the governments around the world. And, I know that being in HR for 23 years in total, I worked in private sector, public sector, I know that the government is fat. There's way too many employees, way too many, make work projects. And that's where our taxpayer dollars are going. I mean, I just didn't want anything to do with it. I'm sitting getting all this propaganda thrown at me about COVID, about, how dangerous it is, lockdown. We're setting an example for Canadian citizens. We're encouraged to get this vaccine, and that was fall of 2021. that hasn't been tested, long-term tested. It's still under this emergency, I can't remember the name, but just the fact that it just seemed like complete propaganda to me. And I thought, why, if we're at home, why are they forcing us to get this? So something really stunk, let alone I had been awake for a year. Now they're telling me they're mandating, and we don't even know when we're going back to the office. Like, nothing made sense. We have the CFO of the department that I worked at, who is this head of the COVID task force, emailing all staff saying, these vaccines are safe and effective, go get your shot.
That's who I would put in charge of a health issue is the CFO. Makes total sense.
I know, like, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So I knew when the Prime Minister had made that announcement in, I think it was August or fall of 2021, that, I think even before that, I'm like, there's no way I want to work for this corrupt organization. And I'm not saying that I saw anything untoward or corrupt during my time in government. I worked for 17 years in total. I didn't see anything, corrupt, but I just didn't want to be a part of it. So I was very quiet with my colleagues. I had experienced what I feel almost was like PTSD with my own family members who were not awake. And it just didn't go well. And I thought, I was in this acting position. I was team leader of recruitment. And I just didn't want to have these kind of severed relationships or judgment cast upon me while I'm doing my job. And, I wanted to do a good job while I was there. I wanted to leave on a high, knowing that I was leaving. I had a good reputation, high valued employee on different fun projects, had great colleagues. I had great mentors. It wasn't all bad at all. But I also know that it also didn't feed my passion and purpose. I had known that for a long time, but I couldn't pinpoint it. I almost felt like I had this imposter syndrome. And it's not that I didn't think I could do the job. I really believed that because it didn't feed my soul, I knew it wasn't where I needed to be. So all in all, I do feel that COVID is this blessing in disguise, because when the mandates came in, I decided, nope, I am not getting a shot because my employer is telling me to get a shot, to stay at home, work at home. So I decided December, I think it was December 15th. That was my last physical day working. I was put on leave, and I was put on leave for 5 months. And I decided at the end of that leave that I would be formally retiring. And so I retired a year ago, May 2022. And during that time off on leave, there was a lot of, soul searching, a lot of inner work that I was doing, and analysis on myself, and, knowing kind of this crazy ass world that's going on around me. I had also been following Jason, and maybe just to tie in my health journey though, because I know I kind of went wayward there, but I do feel that when March 2020 came around, and I was nervous about it, but I was questioning things.
I think we were all nervous. We were all nervous because we've never seen this before. The last one was Spanish flu in the 1920s. We certainly weren't around. So, when for me, when I think of a global pandemic, I think back to, I guess, visuals I've heard and seen of the Spanish flu, of people dying in the streets, and, ambulances and hospitals just overfilled with dead bodies. It sounds morbid, but when I think of a global pandemic, that's what I think of. And like you, when you start to look for some of the signs, I don't hear any sirens going around my neighborhood. I don't see people dying in the streets. I don't see it around me. So
exactly,
that's weird.
On that note, I remember running into a neighbor who was walking with a nurse, a neighbor of hers who worked at a local hospital down the road from me. And she says, there's no COVID there. Like, it's dead. And so many stories I've heard since then that people weren't going to the hospital, even for kind of regular emergencies, right? They were told to stay home and suffer at home. So I think even people that were, may have had other issues were avoiding the hospital because they thought they were going to get infected. Meanwhile, it's dead, like meaning, not busy.
Yeah.
But I do think that, my health journey and, ditching the toxins and the poisons and really getting back to basics with my food really helped to provide this mental clarity that I was able to ask the questions, see through COVID, really see the, I don't know, I wouldn't say corruption, but really get to, why, and really getting that clarity in terms of what the heck is really going on here. And I definitely attribute that to my health journey. And so I had been following a lot of, truthers. I had been following a lot of those that were censored. One of them was Jason Christoff. And I didn't even realize that he had this whole coaching program, but I had been following him, listening to a lot of his interviews. And so when I was on leave, so that was 2022, early 2022.
Not that far, not that long ago.
No, exactly.
Seems like a lifetime ago, but it was just that last year.
Exactly. So I realized that he was doing this self-sabotage coaching program. And I thought, that is what I'm going to do. And the reason why I thought that was because, not only did I learn through my own health journey, through my awakening with COVID, and then through following a lot of the truth movement and the truthers out there, he was kind of the icing on the cake in terms of what other influences that, have we negatively, have our lives had a negative impact from, so the conditioning, the programming from media, from Hollywood, entertainment, news, propaganda, marketing, education system, our environment, like all of it, let alone, maybe what people are dealing with from their childhood and programming and just, normal programming as human beings, right?
We've had to relearn, I feel, just about everything because we were taught to listen to your parents, obviously. You're taught to listen to your teacher and then listen to your priest or your minister and listen to your doctor, listen to your lawyer, listen to your politician, be a good, be quiet and don't get into trouble. And then you do that for 30, 40 years and you realize, hang on a second, that's not really working out for me very well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, and that's why I attribute my health journey, because I dug in and I was listening to my gut, I was listening to my intuition. And then I became successful at listening to my body. And, now I know, like, I am so in tune with my body that, I respect it. Like, I listen to it. I listen if I'm having different food, if I'm having different feelings, if I'm going through things, I know that now that how in tune I am, and to really not take advantage of that, but listen intuitively. And so you're right. So relearning things, listening to our gut, listening to our intuition is so important instead of relinquishing that to other authority figures.
Let's talk about the health aspect for a second, and then I want to get into you talked about self-sabotage, and now you really got my spidey senses taken. But on the health front, when you talked about your work experience and the fallout from that, not even fallout, because I want to make that into a positive experience, because I feel like for most people these days who went through that, I feel like they are looking at it as a positive experience, even though it was the term I always say, people had to make a lifelong decision based on a temporary measure, which is totally not fair at all. But you had an awakening of yourself in terms of what's right, what's wrong, but also regarding your health. And what did you do to finally make the decision to, that's it, I'm going to do something about this, I'm going to figure out what the heck this is? Because we get to a stage where we're not feeling very well, not just a cold, but I don't have any energy, I'm achy, I'm kind of feeling depressed, like this has been going on for too long now, I'm getting fed up, right? So what was it that finally made you decide that that's it, I'm going to figure out what this is and I'm going to do something about it? And you said you went to your medical doctor, but beyond that, what really made the difference for you?
I've been asked that question a couple times, and I do believe that it was like this escalation of all these symptoms that have been going on for years. And so I had been feeling shitty for a long time, but it seemed to be escalating, and my body was really throwing out these symptoms that I was actually concerned about. I had no idea how much I weighed. I knew that I was overweight. I wasn't concerned about that. I was concerned that maybe I had some kind of disease, or honest, I was kind of thinking the worst. And that's what I wanted to treat. And I didn't want to treat it with pharmaceuticals. I didn't want to treat it with a pill. I didn't want to treat it with my medical doctor. But I was super blown away that when I started researching these symptoms, that a lot of them aligned to this insulin resistance. But you asked what was the icing on the cake? I mean, I will say that I think it was end of January, beginning of February, I went on a trip down to Cuba with my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and niece, playing in the waves. I love swimming in the ocean. And I came down really hard on my knee and buckled my knee. And then I was hobbling around the resort for the rest of the vacation. And so, yes, I'm overweight, hobbling around on my freaking, bum knee. I get home from that week and I couldn't even put any weight on it because I had been, it was a big resort. I'm trying to take it all in. But I remember, and so I signed up. I went right away to a physio. I started going to physio 3 times a week. So I was really committed to fixing my knee. But with all these other symptoms that I was experiencing as well, that seemed to be the icing on the cake. And I thought, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to feel shitty. If you would have told me how far I would have come, and to be sitting here today talking about my health journey, losing 60 pounds, leaving government, waking up from this coma, propaganda induced coma I was in. And now I'm this entrepreneur launching a business. I mean, there's no way I would have believed you. I really at the time was just looking to feel better. I was tired of feeling shitty. And for me, I think I had to research and dig in and figure out that I was going to be successful, that this method with healthy ketosis and intermittent fasting, which I'm not on now, I'm not in strict keto. I haven't been probably in over 2 years, but at the time it made a whole lot of sense to me. And I thought, yeah, like what I'm eating is attributing to these symptoms. If I ditch and so it was trial and error. It was like, okay, well, if this is what this method is all about, I'm going to feel better because I'm going to eat better and my results are going to be positive, then why wouldn't I keep going? And that's exactly what happened.
So you did it yourself, basically. You
Yes.
decided that, listen, I'm going to switch out,
Yep.
the processed food and the refined sugars and just eat more fruits and vegetables. I'm going to prepare my own meals. Maybe I'll go for a walk a bit more often. And then soon thereafter, you're like, oh, wow, I actually kind of feel better. And you got a lot of positive reinforcement just from that.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. And, I will share too that I did not exercise any more than usual. Like up until probably last fall. So it's been probably almost, well, 9 months, 10 months. I've been on a strict, at least twice a week, I've been lifting weights. But before that, and during my health journey, I was not exercising. The only exercise, I joke around about it, the only exercise I was doing was probably running for the bus to go to work in the morning. So that 60 pounds was strictly from changing up my diet. And yes, getting back to basics. So making my own meals. And I still do, but I'm not that I'm lazy about it now, but I know what works. I know what's easy for my family. So it's not like I have these, fancy recipes, but I did. Like I adopted a lot of those great recipes early on. I wanted some inspiration.
Were you a good cook before all this happened? Were you like...
I was an okay cook, but I didn't really make things from scratch. Like I love making a garlic sauce with avocado oil. I love making cilantro dressing, even homemade mayonnaise. I never had done that before.
Yeah.
And the flavors are amazing. They're so much better than anything processed, anything in a can.
Salad dressings. I mean, you can't beat making your own. I find
Exactly.
that over the past few years, a lot of people just needed to cook for themselves because maybe the restaurants were closed, and they learned how to cook or were inspired to do something different and maybe be a bit more creative. So like you said, it was a positive experience for you and a lot of people, just on the not just cooking, but the health benefits from preparing your own food, preparing your own sauces is unbelievable. Like Like you said, listen to your body. I like when you said, just listen to your body. The body is a magnificent transmitter. It'll tell you when you're not doing well, and it exhibits itself in aches and pains and inflammation. And those are messages to you. And if you're not listening, it'll just yell at you a little bit louder over time, to the point where I gotta do something here. So, as you get older, listening to your body is so important.
It is truly amazing that our bodies are trying to constantly heal and have this
Equilibrium.
Exactly. And we just need to support it. We need to listen to it and support it, because it is such an amazing magical thing that we have. And listening to our bodies, I find too, like, now that I've ditched the processed food, the toxins, the poisons, you get more clarity. Like someone that's maybe listening to their body, that's maybe not in the best shape, not in the best health, those sounds are probably kind of muzzled. They've probably got a lot of things going on and it's not clear to them. But when you start empowering yourself, controlling what you're putting in your body, you truly are what you eat. I totally believe that now. You start to really grasp and feel empowered with how you're treating your body, what your body is trying to tell you in terms of, different ingredients, different, intolerances or allergies and that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely inflammation, insulin resistance. I think the majority of the population honestly suffers from insulin resistance and the inflammation that goes along with it. And they don't know.
Inflammation is the biggest disease today, raging inflammation.
That's right. That's right. And people don't know how good they could feel. They just think that coasting through life and just kind of feeling mediocre is normal. And
it's my age. Yeah, it's what happens when you get to be in your 80s, or that's just part of this. Or people are great at finding excuses for feeling shitty, like you said. But we can solve and prevent a lot of these things from happening ourselves. But we just need to be creative. We need to be inspired, and we need a purpose. And I think what you're really talking about here, Beth, and your journey is with the food, is you made a choice to start respecting yourself and your body.
That's it.
Right? I'm going to start treating my body, respecting it a little more by not feeding it garbage, but actually fueling it with energy, because food has energy. Exactly. It has a vibration. It provides energy. And the fact that you kind of made that mental mindset shift, I think probably start to open up the doors for other things. So you're starting to treat yourself better with the food. You're starting to exercise a little bit more. This is all part of you. And maybe you did that from a self-sabotage perspective in the past. And maybe that's the segue into your new business and why you decided to do what you're doing now.
Definitely. I know that I was self-sabotaging for years and years and years. And my crux, I had a couple of them, but the main thing was the food. I feel I was an addict to carbs, to refined sugars, the bullshit foods. I know that I was an addict to it. Like physically, like physiologically, I think, like I know that I would get lightheaded, weak, if I didn't have snacks on hand, or if I didn't eat by a certain time. Whereas now, I don't fast. Actually, at one point in my journey, I was just doing OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. And I was okay with that. That was before I started incorporating exercise. But because I was eating such great whole foods, fatty, really good fats, high protein, lots of raw vegetables, and electrolytes, salt, all those things to support it, I was able to go a full day without eating. And then I'd have a really good, meal. I don't do that now. I typically have 2 meals a day and I'm not snacking in between. And I have 2 big meals, actually a lot more protein now, because I feel like with lifting weights, being a woman of my age, I definitely need more protein. But yes, it is all about self-respect, self-empowerment, self-respect. And, not that I regret, waking up so late in life to that, but I do feel like if only I had known, years ago.
I say that all the time about so many different topics. And again, I think it gets back to where we need to relearn. I say this all the time on the financial side of things. Why didn't they teach us this stuff in school? You know,
Yep.
I think back to my parents. Why didn't they teach us some of this stuff today? For example, like precious metals. They were never taught about that. Why do I have to wait so late in life to learn it and suffer, you know, along the way, whether it's food or health? It's so when you start to add that up, if I get back to how you started this conversation, it's almost like something's been being, you know, consciously hidden from us. There's
Oh yeah.
nuggets that we're not supposed to know, because, you know, how to be healthy, how to cook, how to grow your own food, how to be, you know, independent financially. Like, these are basic things
Yes.
we all should know, but man, so many of us don't. And we're all addicted to sugar. We're all addicted to carbs and the refined sugars. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with natural sugars in our fruit. You know,
Right.
there's nothing
Right.
wrong with healthy fats. And you know, I think back to the if you could think back by decades, the ad campaigns was low fat. I don't know, 70s or 80s. Everyone was low fat, and then no salt, and then carbs are bad. And when you think about it, well, we need carbs as fuel to survive. It depends on the type of carbs. We
Right.
need salt, like you said, as electrolyte. Our body is made of salt. We need salt. You know, we need healthy fats, not the bad fats. You know, we need avocado oil. We need essential fatty acids. Our brain needs it. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting when you start to stop and be curious and ask some questions and start to put it together. And you can start to put the Rubik's Cube together and start to self-respect yourself a little more and have some strategies to actually move forward to make yourself healthier.
Definitely. Yeah. And you're right. There's so much to unlearn, relearn, and then educate. And that's what I feel, you know, when I got into the self-sabotage program, I thought at the time, this is, you know, January 2022, I thought because I'm awake, well, there's going to be other people waking up. There's going to be this massive awakening, and I'm going to help support people because they're going to just be floored with all this bullshit that has been implanted in them forever, and they're going to need support to get over this. And I want
Find
to
that at the outset, there were so many people, or maybe not so much.
Oh no. Like in terms of people waking up? Oh God, no. I just assumed that they were going to wake up. Like, it's slow. It's super slow.
Yeah,
It's like, come on, what else do we have to do here? So I feel like my job, not only as a coach, but you know, and I know you in the self-sufficient you community. I mean, it's all about empowering people. It's all about teaching them and you know, really educating. So on our social media platforms, I mean, that's what I'm doing. So yes, I have a coaching business, but I also feel like, okay, like there are so many facets that we need to wake people up to, and, you know, dismantle these myths and, you know, retrain them, retrain their brains, you know. It's just overwhelming, all the information that we have been co-opted to believe in.
yeah.
And it's just been going on forever, for generations and generations.
Well, that's going to change. And the reason why I say it's going to change, because I meet so many fantastic people like yourself who, when I ask them to share their stories with me, it's a similar story where it's almost like they were a bit zombie-like before,
Yeah.
where they went about their business almost in a zombie fashion, you know, go to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
in a job that maybe they didn't love and probably weren't getting a lot of satisfaction, but, you know, paid the bills and la-di-da. And then had a significant life event happen to them, and were almost physically shaken, right? To wake them up, to say, hey, you're not leading the life that you're meant to be. We need to show you your purpose in life. And this is what it is. And it sounds to me like you're starting to, or have discovered, your true purpose. Your light has been turned on, and you know, your mission is to start telling and teaching others about how to self-respect themselves and their bodies. And through your business, which now we'll get into hopefully, about self-sabotage and how they can be the best they can be and remove all of the negative thinking around it.
Yes. So for me, I mean, yes, if health is fundamental for me. So in my coaching program, and often what I'm sharing with people online and my social media is health is foundational. And that is such a massive area. And that's where it starts to truly empower yourself, to gain this mental clarity, to become strong, mentally and physically. That's really the basis of my program. And unfortunately, there are so many negative influences out there, right? Everything from, the Canadian Food Guide to Health Canada's regulation, recommendations for how many alcoholic drinks a week, people should have. So I think right now it's like 10 drinks for women, 15 drinks for men a week. It's like, okay, if Health Canada's promoting that, I mean, I'm going to turn like the other way, right? The fact that, I know this is a touchy subject. So alcohol's a touchy subject, the food's a touchy subject, caffeine's a touchy subject. But again, are these dependents, because a lot of people are dependent on them, right? To be fully functioning, to think that they need to have a productive day or have a productive day, they need to have the caffeine. Is that really something that is benefiting you? I mean, for me, I want to be rid of the dependence. I want to be as independent from the dependence as I can be. And that is such a freeing feeling. If I'm able to squash the addiction to sugar, to carbs, to that kind of thing, I thought, what else can I take on? So with that, I also lost my craving for a full-bodied Cab Sauvignon, red, on the weekends or going out for dinner. I didn't have those cravings, because I was no longer addicted to the carbs and the sugars. So even my dependency or my cravings for alcohol really have diminished over the last couple of years. I'm committed to having a sober year as well. So I haven't had a drink since May 6th when I was at my cousin's wedding, and I self-sabotaged myself a little bit. And I thought, why am I doing this? I don't drink anyway. Why did I feel in this social setting I needed to do this?
Yeah.
And feel like shit the next day? So I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a sober year. So that's what I'm committing to. In February of 2022, I also stopped drinking coffee. I used to love bold.
Okay, we'll have to talk offline about how you did that.
Okay.
I want to know.
You know what? It's a mindset shift. It really comes down to you knowing that you are going to feel better, knowing that short-term pain for long-term gain. That's what it's all about. Like, even when you ditch the bullshit foods, yeah, the McDonald's or whatever, feels good at the time, or you have a craving and the fries are so good, but then you feel like shit, especially when your body is healing and in this prime state. When you go back to those foods, it does not feel as good. Your body's trying to tell you that.
You're not getting that reinforcement that you originally were. And then your desire to have it the next time is even lower.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that your body is telling you that?
Yep. Yeah, especially with sugar, because sugar is a massive addiction, right? And your body naturally creates sugar. So if you're going to ingest it externally, it says, oh, I don't need to make it myself, right? And so it's like any addiction, whether it's nicotine or caffeine or anything, your body says, oh, well, if you're going to give it to me, I'm going to stop. And then when you stop, you get that middle period where you have the withdrawal. But once you get past that, you're good.
And so I will say that's the same with caffeine. And I know that so many people are saying, but I only have 1 cup a day. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's what I had too. And I didn't think it was that bad, and I'm not judging, and I'm not saying it is that bad. But what I am saying is, if you are no longer dependent on it and you get through those withdrawal symptoms and you're not addicted to coffee anymore, is it really something that you need then? Or is it just something that you think you need because you're addicted to it right now and it's on every corner? It's on every corner of the, it's like normalized in our society. Whatever's normalized in our society and on TV and in the movies and in the news and in advertising, I'm like, nope, I'll go the other way. Turn the other way. But yeah, so caffeine, I mean, it's definitely a mindset shift. Know that you're going to feel like shit for the first couple of days. Yes, you can incorporate, decaf coffee if you need to, or, the dandelion. That's what I used. I used the dandy blend a little bit, which is good for you anyway, dandelion root.
Mushroom coffee is actually very good.
Mushroom coffee. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I know that that's a personal choice. It's a touchy subject, but there are some studies that indicate that it is a neurotoxin. There's a lot of spray. There's a lot of chemicals on those beans. Even if you get the organic kind, there's still risk of mold, mycotoxins on the beans too. So just be mindful of that. Why are you really drinking it? I think that's what it comes down to. What benefit is it really giving you? And And so, yeah, I just feel like with each kind of, I call it this adult child rite of passage. So each one of these stages, it's like, yeah, I mean, how can I up level now? What's the next challenge? And for me, I mean, well, I have a couple things that I'm working on. So the sober year, not that I drink a lot, but sober year, getting better sleep. So going to bed earlier, but I'm just like, with this business, there's a lot going through my mind. So it's hard to settle at night. The strength training. So that's what I'm on next in terms of, really wanting to challenge my body with weights. What else? I mean, there's always something. I think it's exciting. Like you get to this point where you're no longer overwhelmed and you're actually excited for the next challenge.
I find that every time you do something, it just opens up another door for something new. And then that opens up another door. And it's not hard, it's just easy.
Yes.
And of course, all you're doing, you're spiraling into positive behaviors, and you're shedding the old unhealthy ones at the same time.
Yeah.
Almost
And you get this sense of empowerment that you are in ultimate control of your body. And, there's so many things in life in this crazy ass world that we feel we don't have control over, but our health, our decisions, our choices, our habits are definitely something that we do have control over. And I think we really need to take advantage of that as much as we can.
So tell me about your business. You've started, when did you start this? Was it recently?
So it was just in the new year that it took me a year to complete Jason Christoph's coaching program certification. And so it took me a year to do that. In January, I was open for business. I received my certification. I didn't have a website yet, but I was starting to educate the masses, starting to educate my following on social media, knowing that the website was coming. And so I think the other important thing too is that, so while Jason Christoph is a coach and a mentor of mine, I've also invested in 2 other coaches, a life coach and a business coach. And I think that is so important for people to have coaches and mentors and leaders in their life, surround themselves and look up to these leaders that they can aspire to. And this is also part of my program in terms of inundating yourself with positive messaging and content. And that also includes the people that you surround yourself with in life. So whether it's podcasts, whether it's subscribing to YouTube channels, or hiring and investing a coach and a mentor, it's extremely important. And so I really felt that I needed some more hand-holding because I came from the corporate world. I came from government. I had no idea what I was doing. To be honest, even when I signed up for the coaching certification, I had no idea that I would have to be so present on social media. And I have never been very vocal on social media before. But in order to brand yourself and brand your business, I mean, we don't have Walmart's marketing campaign, right? In terms of the money flowing, like we have to brand ourselves. And I think being as genuine, as authentic as you can be, it's not just about, I need to hire a self-sabotage coach. It's like, is there a connection with the coach? What have they been through? What have they overcome? How can I relate to them? And how am I building trust with my followers? How am I building trust with the people that I want to help? And I truly do want to help people. When I set out to be a self-sabotage coach and I thought there'd be this mass awakening and I was going to help people out, but there hasn't been, right? It's been very slow, but I truly do want to help people. And I know that some people think that maybe sometimes my messaging, I don't like the word aggressive because I don't think it's aggressive. Maybe in your face a little bit. I'm truth bombing, in terms of the content that I share. But I think it's just so important that I educate, and that people that are awake need to educate. We really do need to stand up and voice what we know to be true and awaken our fellow human beings.
I think when you're running your business, when it's just you basically, and you're the business, I think it's important to tell people who you are and what your philosophy is, and how you do your business and what you stand for, because that's what's going to not just distinguish you from the other, people who are doing the same thing, but it's going to attract the ideal client. And those that, are not resonating to your message, you call it aggressive. I just call it, you're just being you. And Those people who appreciate that will be drawn to you, and those who don't want to work with you, they won't. And as an entrepreneur, that's exactly what you want, because working with someone who doesn't really mesh with you. They're not really committed. They're really not on the same wavelength. So it's painful to work with someone like that. So I always suggest to people you have to be authentic, and don't worry if you're offending someone, because if you feel like you're offending someone, that person wasn't your client anyway.
I agree. And to be honest, so I do these 30-minute discovery calls, and it is my opportunity also to vet my client, because you're right. I mean, I want to work with people that are open-minded, willing to learn, and know that they have the power and the control to change.
So when would someone go to someone like you, self-sabotage coach? Now I'm really curious. So I don't know. Do I sabotage myself? I don't know. How would
I know. It's a relatively new term, right? So part of that is also, educating. What is self-sabotage? I mean, everybody self-sabotages. We're on this kind of spectrum or continuum of self-sabotage. And I feel like I'm self-sabotaging myself a lot less, but I know there's always, room to improve. So, I mean, self-sabotaging is, it's many things, but, in terms of the choices that you make, the bad habits, even though you want something, even though you have this goal and desire to achieve something, but you're not successful in it. So for instance, my health journey, for years, I knew I was overweight. I knew I was suffering from these physical symptoms, but I just kept going. I kept thinking, what can I do? What would I do? I tried this, I tried that, but nothing worked.
But it was unhealthy for you. You knew that it wasn't giving you any benefit, yet you still continue the pattern behavior.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot at play there. Like you talked about kind of this 9-to-5 rat race. We're all conditioned to think that this is a normal way of life, that we go to a job 9 to 5. It's like Groundhog Day, and you kind of do it all again the next day. You may have kids in sports. You may have, family commitments going on. It's like that's what I felt like. It honestly felt like Groundhog Day. So we have this barrier that, life should be lived like this. We live for the weekends. We live for vacation. We live for retirement and pension. Like that's all ingrained in us, right? You go to school, you get your education, you get the job, you retire.
I call it the treadmill of life.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people aren't even seeking, something more than what they're currently living. I just think that a lot of people, their consciousness is more awake now, even though they may not kind of see all the writing on the wall. I think people are starting to really question, what is life? What is this world all about? Even if they're starting to see, little red flags here, there, and everywhere. But our self-sabotage, a lot of it comes from our subconscious programming. So 95% of our thoughts and behaviors, the way we run our life, the way we live our life, is executed from the subconscious mind. It's 95%. That's how powerful it is. Our subconscious mind is like this recorder. It is like a recording device. All it's trying to do, its number one function is to keep us safe. And it does that by identifying repetitive messaging, repetitive content. So think of, what we are all exposed to, the TV in our living room that we all grew up with, the news, we're only kind of getting one little sliver of reality when the news is on. And even that, it's probably complete opposite of what is really going on. But we are these victims of this deliberate programming and conditioning that we are not in charge of. Our lives have been programmed for us in certain ways, and even that those formidable years from, birth to age 7, we are like sponges, right? I think it's the alpha brainwave state that we are constantly absorbing all of this information. So whether it's good or bad, we are absorbing this information and it plays out. I think there's actually a quote, and I can't remember. Show me the boy at 7 years old and I'll show you the man. Something like that. It's about this conditioned program that's set in our subconscious mind that really sets us up for life. So in order to combat these negative conditioning and programming that we've been exposed to, because a lot of it's negative, like in the movies and, everywhere, even the education system, what we are programmed to believe, what we are programmed to believe to be true and not question.
And then that transpires to the workplace after we graduate.
Yes.
Just keep going.
Yeah, good little worker bees, not questioning things, not having this sense of entrepreneurship or empowerment or control over our lives. We're working for the man, we're working for our boss. And where does the creativity come from? Where does the creativity go? What about our passion and purpose in life? No one really questions that. We're all kind of put in these boxes of, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we only kind of have these, finite number of jobs that we think of, when we're little, and it's just kind of ingrained in us in terms of, what life is all about. So it is kind of taking this, 40,000 foot view from above and kind of peeling back, like, what is life all about? So the subconscious mind, going back to that, we are programmed from an early age. This continues, and we really execute on our subconscious mind. So only 5% of our actions or thoughts are coming from our conscious mind. So think of that. I mean, us having a conversation right now, we know that this is we're conscious of this discussion, but that's only 5%. Like, the subconscious brain is so powerful. And so what it takes to overcome self-sabotage and a lot of our detrimental and bad habits is reprogramming our subconscious mind. And so for instance, when I think back to my health journey and why I was successful finally in gaining my health back, I think back, and I didn't know about self-sabotage. I wasn't, awake yet to the realities of the world. But I think back and I know it's because I inundated myself. I unlearned all the bullshit that I knew about food and nutrition, first of all, and I relearned all this content about what I should be eating, about food and recipes and how the body works. And I was just inundating myself because I subscribed to this YouTube channel. I subscribed to podcasts. I inundated my house and my kitchen with, good, healthy food. It was like, I just took it all in. And that's what I do with my clients. So depending on which areas they're wanting to dive into, which areas they are sabotaging themselves the most, that's where we'll really drill in. But in general, it is about, actually I have when I work with my clients, I have 3 areas that we focus on. The number 1 is health, because it is foundational. And in order to get there, yes, these other 2 factors that I work with them on come into play. And so they feed each other. But health is foundational. So it's educating them on what is health, what is proper nutrition. And I'm not kind of condoning or supporting any one diet. It's all about whole foods. I am not on any one diet right now. I just know what works for my body, and I know everybody's different. But I will say that ditching the trifecta of ultra processed foods is the starting point, right? And then the next,
being aware, and at least having that person, having someone like you mention things like that, at least, because we are aware. But as you know, sometimes they think they're doing a good job. It's like, I'm going to be healthy this week. Instead of buying Coke, I'm going to buy Diet Coke. Well, it's still, actually, that's even worse. So
more toxins.
We really have to go to the lowest common denominator, right? And I love it when you say, let's start with your health, because if health is not at a good place, you can't function on any level properly.
Exactly. That's it. That's exactly it. So then the next one is conscious programming. So working on your external environment. And so, as I said, I know I was healthy because I inundated myself with positive content. So the podcast, the YouTube videos, I've taken it a step further now. So I also do gratitude journaling every morning. I do, nature walks, getting out in nature every day, the exercise, like making those positive habits. And I'm not saying you need to do everything all at once. Again, I know I was successful because I took on the health, and I inundated myself with that. But even so, in terms of hacking your environment and your conscious awareness, even wall art, home decor, stickies around your mirror, like the I am statements are so powerful. I am successful. I am valued. I am loved. I am living an abundant life. How powerful is that to say every day? And so that's daily affirmations. It's part of my gratitude journaling that I do. And then the third one is hacking that subconscious mind. So we're doing all these things consciously, right? Which is totally helping. But the most powerful part of our brain and the most powerful part that sabotages us is often our our subconscious mind. And so it's hacking our subconscious mind, getting into the theta, the alpha and the theta brainwave state when we're relaxed, when we're kind of, dipping into that sleep state and doing hypnotherapy and hypnosis. So I have my clients do, depending on which area they're wanting, I customize hypnotherapy for them. We have access to a hypnotherapy library. And so I have them do for 21 days, either in the morning, just as they're waking up and they're kind of still groggy, a 20-minute hypnotherapy meditation, or they can do it at night as they're going to sleep, which is also a really, really effective time to do it because it's going from the alpha to the theta brainwave state. And your subconscious mind is absorbing that. And so it's like positive affirmations, depending on which area they're wanting to focus on in life, but it's for 21 days at least. We know that 21 days, that's how long it takes to create a habit. So for instance, all of those, so those are kind of the three areas that I like to hone in on with my clients. For me right now, as a new entrepreneur, as a new business owner, I'm still doing all these things. So I haven't I haven't achieved and put a nice tight bow on it. And it's, I'm constantly trying to up level. So I'm still concentrating on my health. I'm wanting to optimize it. I'm trying to eat more protein, as I said, lately. My conscious, in terms of hacking my conscious brain, investing in coaches, investing in podcasts, listening to successful entrepreneurs, gaining insight onto how to achieve a successful business. And then third, with my subconscious hacking, I'm also doing hypnosis and hypnotherapy on abundance. And, I'm finding that that's really helping because, this is all new to me. This is all a massive challenge. So I know where I need to hone in on. I know where I need work. I know where I need the work to be done. And so it's kind of this, depending on where you are in life, what you're wanting to focus on, my program I'll tailor the program to help you achieve, help ignite this fire and help to empower you to level up, ditch your self-sabotage, and really embrace, the true potential that you have.
So your programs always touch on health,
Yeah.
The environment, the
Yes.
self-affirming, reinforcing environment,
Yeah.
and the I guess reprogramming of your subconscious using hypnosis. So you have programs that always focus on that, and like you said, depending on the needs of the individual client, it may be a bit more of this, a little less of that, depending on that. Right? It's funny, it's not really funny as you're talking. You're doing way more than self-sabotage, fixing people's self-sabotage. You're addressing deep, long-rooted, almost traumas that, and I'll ask you if you've seen this in your clients that have been, there probably since childhood.
Yes.
A lot of our behaviors, I think, stem from that, whether it's just wanting to be loved by your parents or being yelled at by your parents or abused or being ignored or whatever. And it just continues and then it manifests itself. Then it becomes a problem later in adulthood. And it's this feeling of, I'm not going to go for that thing I really want because I'm probably not worthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They achieved them. They had it all. So I guess what I'm trying to say is going through one of your programs, working with you, there is hope. It's more than hope. There is a process, there is a mechanism, there is a strategy for just about anyone to really shed their own onion and achieve the life that they want, whether it's getting that job they really believe is in them, that this is my purpose, I should be getting out of this job and I can get that job, or deciding to leave a job and volunteer to do something they love, whatever it is, right? It's to get people to start to reprogram their brains to in themselves that they can and probably deserve. And even as a human, you're here for a reason, and we need to make sure that everyone is working at their full potential for the sake of humanity.
Yes, exactly. And so you touched on traumas and different events that have happened in people's lives. And we go through that. There's an intake form or a questionnaire that every client of mine completes, and it's comprehensive, right? Because I'm getting a really good look at, I mean, even like a 4-day food journal, but also, other things like, other things that have happened in their lives, what sticks out for them the most, so getting a really good handle on what the client is coming to me with. And I think what's really important about this program is, yes, those things have happened, and we're addressing them, and it's maybe why you are who you are today, including all the self-sabotage, including that life experience. But what is hopeful, and you touched on it, is the fact that they can reprogram their mind just as it was programmed before for the negative, that they can reprogram their mind for success in a positive way and change the trajectory, change the story of their life. That is what is so hopeful and empowering. That, yes, acknowledging that happened, but it doesn't define you. It doesn't have to define you.
Yeah.
There is hope. And I mean, it's very powerful to see the transformations and then see them on this positive trajectory, empowering themselves, knowing that they have control over their mind and their body.
Just imagine, more and more people just being healthy,
Yeah.
Imagine more and more people doing what they love to do. So imagine more and more people who are contributing to society, producing and just not consuming all the time. And
Yes.
then the fact that just spreads like wildfire, and the happiness and the positivity that results from that. So it's
So powerful. And the fact that people are waiting for this mass global awakening. And I truly believe that people need to empower themselves first, take the reins in their own hands, and have ultimate control of their minds and bodies. And everyone needs to do that work. Everyone needs to do that inner work before I think we see this more massive awakening.
I totally agree. The teacher has to be the student first and walk those shoes, just like you in your story, right? You're way more powerful having gone through it yourself, and all the learnings and the struggles and the failures. But that's one of the benefits you bring to your business and your clients is, first of all, it is achievable. Look at me, I've done it, and I have a strategy that's proven that can work for you too. Like you said, your brain got reprogrammed once. That means it could be reprogrammed again and again.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow, what a powerful message. And I love chatting with people who have made that transformation in their life, particularly under some really difficult situations that we never even dreamed ever.
No way. No way.
Making it positive, not just for yourself, but now you're sharing and contributing to the betterment of others, and that's just unbelievable.
Thank you. And I will say, I mean, I am also a recovering people pleaser. I never wanted to, I was always the one to go along to get along. I never wanted to stand out or, get attention, especially in a negative light. I remember being in school and thinking getting called out by the teacher would probably be my worst nightmare. So the fact that, I've stepped out and I talk about a lot of controversial things, especially on my social media. And I just feel I have this suit of armor now. I've empowered myself to have this confidence, to be able to be comfortable in knowing what worked for me, knowing what works for others, and being able to spread that message and spread the truth out there is what my mission is now. It is what my passion and my purpose is.
It's almost like you weren't comfortable with yourself before.
No. Yep.
comfortable with yourself, you're not confident, you don't feel like you should stand up and defend yourself. But now that the fact that you've maybe rediscovered who you truly are, you feel more empowered, more powerful to say, hey, no, I'm going to say something about this, or that's wrong. You're going to stand up for yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've reinvented Beth. I've used that a lot. I've reinvented myself for sure.
People pleaser, man, I love that. I feel like a pleaser too, even at this stage in life, and I feel like I shouldn't be, but I feel like I still am. So I got to fix that.
Well, I mean, the first step is being aware of it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Second step is doing something about it. So reprogramming your mind. Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah. Being true to yourself, not self-censoring. We live in this world where everybody's offended by everything, and people are very careful and they self-censor themselves, but they're not being their genuine, authentic selves when they do that, right?
Yeah, we need people to be authentic, or else what makes you different than anyone else? That's not helpful.
Yeah.
We need everyone to be doing what they're meant to be doing here.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're being controlled, and they want us to be, the powers that be, or the human farmers, global elite. I don't know. I don't like to give them too much clout, but I mean, there is this kind of ruling class, right, that we can't deny, but they want us enslaved and controlled. And the more that we kowtow and the more that we self-censor, the more
power we give to them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
If someone want to get in touch with you, Beth, your website is?
My website is bethblackmore.com. And I'm on social media, Instagram, bethblackmore.co. I'm also on Facebook, Beth Blackmore. And my email, I can share my email, beth@bethblackmore.com. So many ways to get a hold of me.
I know I follow you on Instagram, and I always love your creativity and your authenticity in your posts, where you just tell it like it is, and you share your opinion. And if someone doesn't like it, they don't have to like it. They can move.
That's right.
That's right. World.
Thank you. Thanks for that feedback. Yeah. And I haven't always felt that I'm this creative being, but I feel like I've stepped into my own. I've stepped into, what I want to be doing, and it's helpful, so the creative juices are flowing, which is great. There's a lot of fodder out there. There's a lot of material for me. So.
Well, that's the other thing. There's a lot of material, and there's never a shortage of something new to learn or to be interested in. So
that's right.
New path. And when we chat next time, it'll be probably quite a different conversation, because you will have discovered something, not something totally different, but something that just grows and evolves from this.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Constantly learning. I am a lifelong learner, and I'm proud to say that. I am open-minded, a bit of a skeptic, because I like to, I don't take things at face value. I want to research, I want to understand, I want to, hear from different sources. It's so important, being open-minded. I am not stuck in a certain way. It's about constant evolution, constant education, and proud to say I'm a lifelong learner.
You're a recovering people pleaser, lifelong learner. Sounds like a t-shirt.
I'm going to add that to my website.
Beth, very much. It's been just so wonderful chatting with you and getting to know more about your story, but also all the cool stuff that you're doing in your new business, and how you're helping people to really to be true to themselves and unleash their inner light. I just love that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation, David.
Thank you. Talk to you again soon.
All right. Take care.